Hi, everybody. Welcome to Relax IT is Covered, the podcast that's created for C-level executives and small business owners. We want to bring technology to you in a meaningful and simple way. Today on our show, we've got Nicolas Tessitore from NetLogic Computers. I've known Nick for going on, almost 6-7 years now, and one of the main folks over at NetLogic Computer. His official title is Chief Marketing Officer. So Nick is into the marketing area, but he comes from a very strong background understanding the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. Nick has helped us, IT Pros Management, myself personally, on a lot of projects using Power Automate, using several tools, SharePoint. And I thought I wanted to invite him on the show to really give us a better understanding of all the different solutions that are out there in the Microsoft ecosystem. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. What is available in that Microsoft ecosystem that potentially can help a small to mid-sized business, nonprofit, become a cloud solutions company, basically a company that can run in the cloud, provide security, provide identity services, and provide all the Microsoft systems that a lot of companies have in-house. Move those to the cloud and expand your organization and be able to scale it. With that, Nicolas, go ahead and give us some information about yourself and NetLogic.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the introduction, Randy. It's always a pleasure meeting with you, sir. As Randy mentioned, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for NetLogic Computer Consulting. Ironically, I wear a lot of different hats. One of them is the Chief Complaining Officer, which we've made jokes of before. And I do a lot of the service, the sales, and the marketing. So when it comes to anything in our My 365 program, which we'll be talking a little bit about today with Microsoft, I'm helping with the general service, process, and procedure, but I'm also creating a lot of our avenues for how do we bring in sales, leads, what is our messaging, what is our brand saying. So just a little bit all over the place. My background is actually not in tech. When I started off here, I started as a janitor because I had no tech experience, and then I slowly worked my way up. I've done things like basic help desk, cold calling and marketing, all the way up to what I'm doing now, which is a lot of the higher end service. A lot of Microsoft certifications now. I think I'm sitting at 6 or 7, but all focused on the same thing. How do we make a modern workplace work? There's a very interesting ecosystem with Microsoft 365. We have a lot of applications, but they make this complex network where we kind of visualize a cloud server. And that's where a lot of my specialization has been honed in on. For IT pros, we've gone, as Randy said, a lot of projects where we implemented SharePoint and then moved to things like basic workflows and automation. So bringing productivity to the consulting space, essentially.
Yeah, that's great. You definitely have come up. I mean, I've seen your evolution and your growth in the NetLogic company from the time we became partners, and you've definitely saved our butt, helped our team. Our team really likes you. They always, mention you. I see you on calls all the time, so it definitely, I'm glad to have you today as a resource to be able to help, our audience understand kind of what Microsoft 365, what that ecosystem looks like, and how it can help them. So, kind of the first question I have for you is, how can these Microsoft 365 solutions like SharePoint, Teams, Intune, Entra, Power Automate, which I know you're beast at. How can these solutions put together help a small to mid-sized business grow and be able to transform their organization into a cloud organization and be able to scale with those solutions?
It's an interesting question, Randy, because a lot of businesses don't understand exactly what the cloud might be and what it means to move to the cloud. It's very common. I see people visualizing the cloud as actually a problem their organization is going to face versus something that's actually going to bring them to a new place in life. So when we think about how we can do this with Microsoft, a lot of the times we evaluate at the fundamental level. Are all your IT needs in different places? Are you using an on-prem server and then a bunch of third-party tools? Are you actually utilizing a work login or a work set of credentials? There's a lot of things missing from the IT needs of small to medium businesses. We're not looking at enterprise features and functions, and we're definitely not looking at enterprise budgets. A big part of the cloud is, first of all, saving money. When you look at Microsoft, we focus on a license called Business Premium. It's only $22 per user. And if you only have a 10 user organization, 220 bucks a month is pretty much nothing. Well, comparatively, you get an actual server, and maybe every year, every 3 years, you got to upgrade it. It could be $15,000. Why have some crazy expense like that when every aspect of what you need, and this is why we call it a cloud server, for your IT can just be hosted in the cloud? I'm talking about your files. I am talking about the personal identity. We're talking about email too. We want to get everything for an exchange up into the cloud. And we're also looking at some niche features. I use Planner a lot, which we see a lot of third-party tools, things like Monday and Asana, already built into that license and that cost. For $22, I actually get everything I need to have a work experience. A lot of people are just familiar with Office. They're not familiar with Microsoft 365, which is the business platform. It's meant to have everything a business needs, and to move to the cloud is just adopting those tools in a lot of cases. You and I, we've gone through a lot of migrations. So if it's talking about moving to the cloud, there can be those slight hiccups or milestones you have to cross. But comparatively, a lot of this stuff's native to us. We already use Word, we use Excel. A large majority of us are already using Outlook. So it's not really changing our day-to-day. It's more about just changing the backbone and then implementing new.
Yeah, that's great that you mentioned that, because the understanding that a lot of business owners or C-level executive may have around Microsoft is, again, like you said, just the Microsoft Office suite of products: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook. That's it, and completely missing the picture. And they already may have a business premium license, like you mentioned, and they're just using that little subset, which I consider a small subset of what the entire license can provide. Another question I have: what are the kind of the key benefits that you see small to mid-sized businesses get when they start either integrating the Microsoft 365 ecosystem into their environments, into maybe a hybrid environment, or into just a fully migrated from on-prem to the cloud? What are some of those key benefits that you see?
Yeah, a general one's productivity. In every single business, in the small to medium business space, it's definitely productivity is key. It could be something as simple as setting up your computer. A lot of people underestimate how long it takes to set up a computer from a company from scratch. With Autopilot, something we have in the license, I can set up the entire device configuration. I can install all your apps. I can set up your security, and all you have to do is log in with work credentials. That could be 8 to 10 hours condensed into 40 minutes. It's very simple at the technical level. And then you also have the productivity on the other end of the spectrum. What happens when a server goes out and maybe you don't have at the time the best IT team? Could be a few days. Maybe you have data loss. Maybe you have to replace that hardware. When you're in the cloud, the main thing about the productivity increase is going to be the applications aren't always going out of date. They're not collapsing on you and breaking. And then the way the tools work together is completely different than what we're used to. SharePoint Online. When we have a Word document in the same place and we open it because both of us have permissions, we work on the document together. We don't both have different versions. There's a live avatar. Randy's clicking here, Nick's clicking here, and we're working together in real time. It's a completely different experience than what we're used to. For some organizations, you see a lot of savings. When you go from on-prem to the cloud is the biggest one, hands down. The other thing is you look at sometimes license savings. Too many organizations have license sprawl. You have all these different licenses for different reasons, and Business Premium consolidates it all. Those are definitely the two big ones, but I always lean more on the side of productivity. You're going to save hours on things you really should not be wasting time on.
Right. Yeah, and that's great that you mentioned that, because again, that license sprawl that you mentioned is one thing I see also. And the other part of it is really understanding, the amount of time that you can focus on doing specific tasks and worrying about your technology, because pretty much your technology is built out and taken care of. Another kind of idea that comes to mind is really that idea, but really kind of an understanding of, because I've worked with you so much, I know some examples that we could share. But maybe on your part, what are some examples that you've seen where a business or a nonprofit has implemented a Microsoft 365 solution, either from on-prem going
Sure.
completely to Microsoft? Can you share maybe an experience that you've had where you've seen a dramatic impact? I definitely can, working with you. I know we've worked on projects together, but maybe on your side, I know you've worked with a lot of other companies as well. Um,
Yeah.
any ideas, anything you can share with that?
Oh, definitely. We actually on our website we have one with one of our nonprofit clients, Foundation for Metro West, where we actually had a huge flip from what they were used to in terms of general IT service. Sure, that's part of what we're talking about there with Megan, but a big part of it is we actually go into the things that we change for the organization in regards to. That device joining is actually one of the big ones. Was actually getting these devices set up quickly. The other thing is a company intranet site when our CEO was in the mortgage business in the early 2000s, he had to pay close to millions of dollars a year just to have somebody come in, develop this large scale company intranet site, and then maintain it all year round. And then, same thing with the following years. When we came to the fruition in I believe it was around 27, or when was it? 2019, 2020, we started looking at SharePoint for a company intranet site because it gives you everything you need in order to have a home page for everybody in the company to land. You have all your files and your useful tools, and now you don't have to worry about constantly upscaling and more importantly, just general maintenance on a tool. Microsoft takes care of SharePoint for you. You build out the company intranet, you build out your department sites and all your unique permissions, you protect all your
Hmm.
files, and then you're set up. You're realistically done. You and I have done it plenty of times where we build out a
Right.
department site, make a document library where they can store their files, very unique permissions to keep the security there. But then we don't constantly address that all throughout the year. The users know how to share their files, they know what they can and can't access, and more importantly, their company has an intranet site now, something that it used to be behind a huge paywall for most organizations. So
Right.
that's a big win. We always try and show up and get a company intranet site built because it increases productivity tenfold. That live file experience I was talking about, that's built into the intranet site by default. So if it's Excel, Word, PowerPoint, any of the Office apps, you have that live collaboration and it all syncs to your computer. Kind of for those who are used to a file share, you have a map drive. SharePoint does that, so we can get our or our files locally. We can get our files in the cloud. It's super seamless. So with Foundation for Metro West, we had the landing page. We distinctly set up Intune for their devices to get that going, and then we utilize Defender. Make sure that they have a tool that makes sense for them. It's cost effective, enterprise level security, but it's not overbearing, it's not constantly breaking, and it's something we all can manage together. There's
Right.
quite a few businesses in that regard. I think because they're a nonprofit, you also have the nonprofit pricing, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Very
That's some good
unique.
stuff right there. Yeah, that's some good
Oh
stuff right
yeah.
there.
I believe it's currently $5 or $6 per user on Business Premium instead of the 22. And all you have to
Mhm.
do is prove you're a nonprofit. You get that subscription. There's some unique ways to adopt Microsoft. If you're in the nonprofit space, you're in a very fortunate place. And it scales the same way. You don't lose features or anything like that. You get a full business subscription. That is a key one we always talk about. We have enterprise use cases, but it's the same thing. It just at scale. Instead of doing it for 10 people, we did it for 500, and it just amplified productivity. Always the same though.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the Microsoft ecosystem is that it's so scalable. Like you said, you can have a 2, 3 person office or 300 person office, and it
Right.
scales, just dramatically. You mentioned some of the document management SharePoints. What are some of the key features that you see when people implement kind of a SharePoint environment? What kind of, I guess, productivity gains do they get specifically with the SharePoint component from collaboration and operations?
Yeah, operationally, we see a lot less of the data loss, which is a
Yeah.
common one. Many people, when we're working in things like, for example, our OneDrive, a lot of people think it's good to share things from your OneDrive. I'd say it's one of the worst things you can do, but that's only because of the type of content that's in that OneDrive. When it comes down to SharePoint, we make it where, if you have a company intranet site, maybe we lock that down to your domain. So all the files, everything that's in that location is protected for your organization. Now, the reason that makes that more productive is, if I'm sitting in my landing page, that company intranet site, everything here, if I click share, I can send it to other people in my company with no worry. They'll get edit access or whatever access they have. And now it's simplified for me. And if I want to share this externally, I then take it and I move it to my extranet site, which is an external facing SharePoint. And now it's just as available as it was before to my internal, but now it's also available to the people I share it with externally. As long as the walls are set up that you need inside of SharePoint, the productivity, as we constantly use the word scale here, it scales with you. I get my extranet set up. We actually have one where all our clients are in one place, but only the client in question can see their individual folder. I, as an admin, can see everything. I go to one place, I have all my clients. My clients go to one place, but they only see themselves. So when we're talking about productivity in that regard, we do have that live collaboration. We have the ease of security now. It's really not hard to set up the security, and it's not hard to audit that security. And then on the latter half, we have that secure sharing that just makes it almost mindless. Am I in the company intranet or am I in the company extranet? Great. Now I'm ready to do the work I need to do. And we don't have to focus on the granular level. Well, does so-and-so have access to this? And then if I share this, or are they going to have to log in, and et cetera, et cetera? No. Copy the link, send it to them from the right location, and you're ready to go. And that makes it easier on the external user as well. It's all too common. You use a product, you share something externally, and they can't get into the files of the resource. When you set up SharePoint properly, that goes away as well. There's definitely times when it can pop back up. We've seen it with sensitivity labels, but in most regards, it's significantly easier.
You had mentioned some things about security when it comes to SharePoint. So that kind of leads me, I think, to my next question is Entra, identity management. What are some of the key features that you're seeing that helps organizations manage their identity management much better using the Entra platform within that Microsoft 365 ecosystem?
It's got to be the single user profile. It really goes unnoticed when organizations aren't familiar with it, and then when they finally adopt it, it's a night and day experience that you don't want to go back on. I think a good example is your device image. When I have a user in Entra, that controls my email, it controls my permissions to everything, but it also houses my device, my image of my device, I should say. If this laptop breaks and I go to Best Buy and buy a new one, and I type in my work credentials, my whole setup comes right back to fruition. There's no other way to do that without my work credentials. Same thing if I'm on a server. If I'm on a server joined to my domain and I lose my laptop, I lose my device image. Entra, you don't have that happen. It stays consistent with you, and then I can use my identity for a lot of things. Most notably for end users is going to be permissions. Whenever I want to do something, if they're a user in Entra, I can mention them in my emails, I can add them to my groups and my files. It's very quick and easy. But without that identity, it is almost impossible to manage an organization, especially at any regulation. If you got to be HIPAA, if you have to be NIST, if you have to be GDPR, and you don't have identity management yet, you're way behind the curve for what you actually need to be doing. I'd say without Entra, a lot of us are kind of lost. We had Active Directory, we had Azure Active Directory, but Entra is trying to make it simple for everybody. And single user identity is a really important part of that. We manage everything on that single user identity.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that's kind of the key components of Entra is the fact that you can have that single sign-on experience with other services, other solutions. Obviously, many companies use Microsoft's single sign-on as their de facto sign-on. So you can use your email address that's an Entra identity management object to be able to log into I use it for everything, just about. It's crazy how that becomes the keys of the kingdom to everything, not only Microsoft stuff, but just in other different environments. You mentioned the importance of identity management. I bring it to the standpoint of, from a cybersecurity standpoint, a lot of policies that you're starting to see come out actually in the questionnaires say Active Directory or Azure Active Directory. They haven't updated to the new term of Entra, but it's coming
Sure.
probably this year. You need to have that. That's becoming a requirement for a lot of cybersecurity insurance policies. So it's affecting not only technology, but also some of your security and risk management components. We mentioned, Entra as part of the identity management. Where do you see kind of Intune play its role in the environment for a small, mid-sized nonprofit or business, being what it is? So can you explain a little bit what Intune is and how it actually impacts the ecosystem?
Yeah, definitely. With Entra set up, you can start to utilize Intune, and it is one of the best tools we've been gifted. I have to say, Intune makes life so much simpler. Many years ago, you had to build it all by hand. It was a little more difficult, but the concepts always remain the same. It is device management for an organization, and it's what actually simplifies setting up devices, keeping them fully managed, meaning the configurations the device is getting. Are people supposed to be able to plug in flash drives and add malware into the computer? Are we supposed to be authenticating a certain way when we sign into the device? All the way to what apps are supposed to be installed. You mentioned single sign-on. If I want to use that on any of my desktop apps, they have to be installed. And we take a lot of that off the user's plate with Intune. I would say there's a lot that it can do in the device management field, but we also look at things like the security field. Intune has the endpoint or Defender for Endpoint, which is the security module. We also have things like conditional access, which enables us to do MFA across the organization, check for device compliance, meaning does this device have all the configurations it's supposed to? If it doesn't, mark it not compliant kind of situation. I do also really like the fact it keeps everything up to date. Windows up to date, my apps up to date. Intune makes life a lot simpler. So you set up Entra, you get your identity. You then go to set up your devices with your identity. That's all managed by Intune. And then Intune keeps you up to date, and we manage those devices through Intune. And it's included. It's not a device manager you have to get externally, and it's not something you have to integrate with third party. A lot of businesses don't know you can do mobile device management with Intune. iOS, Android, Mac, you can enroll them with the company portal, and then you set them up. You can make sure they have their apps, their requirements, and you're good to go. We don't need any third parties anymore.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'll give you a quick a quick story here. I lost my Android phone. I have two phones. I have an iPhone and an Android phone. I lost my Android. I couldn't find it. I looked everywhere, and I was like, "Oh man!" So when I broke down, I said, "I'm going to go to the store." I went to the AT&T store, and luckily I had insurance on the phone. I didn't know I had insurance, so I was able to get a new phone. Got everything, got it, but brought it. And the guy at the store was like, "You want me to help you set it up?" I go, "No, I got this covered," because I knew I had Intune.
Right.
So I just joined my device, set up two profiles, my work profile and my personal profile. Like that, everything was back. All my applications are back, all my settings, everything was right back to where I needed it to be on my phone. I've done it the same thing with my laptop. When somebody told me, "Hey, if your laptop broke, what would you do?" I just go buy another one. And I have Intune. I'm just going to push everything back out, and it's all going to be ready to go. And like you said, probably 45 to an hour. My laptop is ready to go back to work. And I think that's what makes organizations like ours that deploy Intune be able to be much more flexible, much more dynamic in the way we operate, because we know it works. And the other piece I'm going to mention of Intune, I'm going to give NetLogic, David Swenson, particularly on your team, kudos here because of the baseline policies that you guys build out. NetLogic builds out these incredible policy sets that go out into Intune and create a very best practice, very secure Intune environment. Twice a year, they release these baselines. And I tell a lot of people, I said, I know organizations that don't do this 2, 3, 4 years because it's so much work. But NetLogic has really streamlined this and be able to take these baselines and apply it to a tenant. And the tenant now has all these correct settings, all the correct, and again, they don't push it down your throat, but it is there for you to tweak and adjust it. But for the most part, it works, and it keeps your tenant very secure, very dynamic, and all the new settings that come out from Microsoft, the new solutions, these baselines accommodate that. So I guess you and I love Intune, so
Oh yeah.
we'll put that one to bed. Um, the next question I have regarding 365 is really looking at Power Automate. What are some of the creative ways that you've seen organizations, and I can testify for one of them, but what is some of the ways you've seen businesses kind of embrace or use Power Automate to help, a business process or business solution or business problem get handled?
Yeah, Power Automate's good for a lot of things. In regards to how it can be used, it can be used in so many different ways. I think that's generally the problem we face is you'll look at the product and go, man, there's a million and one ways to use this, and I just can't figure out what the heck it does. That's always where we start.
Right.
I use it in a lot of unique ways. And actually, David and one of our other members, Rafe Johnson, are the ones who taught me how to. I call it struggling with Power Automate because no matter how good you are at that tool, it finds its way to be uniquely difficult. But it's because it can solve so many problems. It's not difficult because it's a troublesome tool. It's difficult because there are just so many different things you can do. I
Right.
use it actually as my sales funnel tool, and I'll go into some other examples as well. But you go to our website and you fill out a contact us form. That form's its own thing. Our website's its own product. But what Power Automate does is it captures all the data from the form. It then takes that data, it transforms it for us, and it puts it into our CRM. It then also creates a task for us that it assigns it to somebody for us. It gives them all the details and the notes, and it says, hey, call this person or send them an email. So what it's doing is it's creating a workflow for me. Without Power Automate, I'd have to say, okay, that form's filled out, log in, go check the form. Okay, that's been done. Go into CRM, manually enter all the data. Okay, that's done. Get on the phone, call the person, do all this work. Instead, Power Automate's right in the middle. It's taking all that time I'd be wasting doing everything else, and it's doing it for me. And then all I have to do is look for the task or look for the notification. It's very simple, but there's also a ton of complex ways. I have a tool where if you fill out a form, what it does is it takes all the data and it creates a templated Word document for you. It fills out this huge, I think it's 5-page document with a whole bunch of custom fields for you. Then you can take that, you can do whatever you want with it, but every single time that form's filled out, it fills out the template for me. Now I no longer have to go in, fill out that Word document, reformat it every time. It's just going to do it for me. I love Power Automate. I consistently use it for basic things too, like taking data from an Excel and moving it somewhere else. You can even make buttons with it, which is pretty cool. When we're coding applications and we want a button to do something unique, you make a Power Automate. Oh, I want to take what they're doing and I want to send them this item and do this thing. It's all about workflow. And the main things you have to think about are, is it something you want automatically to happen? Is it something you want to push a button and then it's going to make it happen? Do you want it to recur on a schedule? It's very simple. You just need to know when you want these things to happen and what it's going to do. There's a ton of connectors, so you can use third-party products. It's not just Microsoft oriented, and that's how we make it so flexible. I can bring 7 different products together and then make a flow for my business. That's why it's called Power Automate. We're not just saying, oh, I want these tools to kind of speak together. You're going to string a bunch of apps together and you're going to make a unique workflow to you. And then other people can use it too. It's not just locked down to a single user. Those forms I'm talking about, anybody who goes to the website and fills out a form, that workflow happens automatically. It doesn't matter who it is, all year round the clock, it's happening for me. So some flows might go unnoticed for a little bit. Some flows might run once a year, and then other flows are running every day consistently just to keep work flowing. That's why we call it a workflow.
Yep. Yeah, I know you guys have helped us with some clients' specific needs, create these flows, these automations that really help productivity for these organizations dramatically. We're talking logistical companies, nonprofits, advertising firms. We work on a big one for a company called Bilingual Media. That was a very tedious workflow creation, but between you and Rave, we got that accomplished. So yeah, it's a great product to use. Another key component, I think maybe a lot of us, well, we're using it right now. You and I, we're on Teams. Um, how does Microsoft Teams kind of help in that collaboration set? I mean, obviously we're showing you how it actually works, but what is your experience on how that can improve an organization's collaboration?
Oh yeah, between Teams and SharePoint, it's a hard battle for which one's my favorite. I do a lot in SharePoint, but I notice there's never a time I'm not in Teams. When it comes to Microsoft Teams, we think of it like our single pane of glass. All my
Hmm.
Microsoft tools are accessible in the tool. I'm able to do my meetings. I'm able to chat, group chats, team chats. I can actually chat externally, like text messages. I can use it on my phone. For instance, I could transfer the call to my phone. I could walk out the door. I could come back in, transfer it back to my computer. It's a seamless experience, and it's all based on that single pane of glass. If I need to do something, I know it's in Microsoft Teams. Productivity wise, it's tenfold. Being able to quickly throw a bunch of people into a group chat and have a conversation. I'm constantly orchestrating things. So I have our biggest one is definitely our marketing team. Our marketing team has its own separate section, its own Microsoft team with all its channels, which are how we talk about different topics and organize things. But then we also have a meeting that's attached to our team. So every single week at 10 a.m. on Thursday, we have our marketing meeting and we go through our sync. All of that data gets saved securely in the marketing site because they're connected. So if I'm sharing stuff back and forth, it's saved to the location I can trust. And then more importantly, when we're working through these things, all my other tools connect. So I mentioned we have a team that makes a SharePoint site. Well, my team also makes a group, and that team also gets a planner, and that team also gets a calendar. So slowly but surely, we're building up our entire department, and all I had to do was create one resource, and then I use the other stuff. Everything I do, we're planning timelines out to 2026 already. But what we've been slowly doing is we build out our planner, we build out all our tasks, our objectives, we start accomplishing things, and we saved a bunch of time. Okay, great. What are we going to do with the time? Well, let's plan next quarter. Okay, great. We've been doing this. We need this tool. Let's build it out. We save more time. Let's plan next quarter. And then it just kept snowballing. We kept getting more and
Yeah.
more productive. Teams is a great tool, and we're on a Teams meeting right now. We're filming on Teams. If you wanted to have a webinar on there, you can. You want to have a quick one-on-one meeting, you can. It's a super flexible tool, and I have yet to see an organization use it the same way as another organization. Everybody is uniquely working with it. You always have a team that's your foundation, but what's inside that team, how you communicate, what the permissions are, do you have meetings attached? It's always unique. It's based on what your organization needs. I love Teams a lot.
I do too. Well, since we adopted Teams, 5 years ago, I think it was,
Mhm.
our internally, our company, even between us, I mean, we're partners, we don't email each other. We
Right.
Teams each other. We chat each other. My team doesn't email each other anymore. We haven't emailed each other unless it's like a legal document that I've got to, even
Right.
that. But I mean, most of the time it's communication through Teams, either a quick phone call on Teams, a video chat, or just a regular chat. Asking a question. Very fast, very quick, secure. So yeah, I love Teams too. That's just become my go-to for everything. Um, One question I tend to ask in these, and I always kind of play a devil advocate. Yeah, Microsoft 365 is great. We love it. But what are some of the challenges that you've seen from organizations that are moving into adopting a full Microsoft 365 environment? Can you share some maybe some pitfalls that we can let people know about so they can avoid them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a common one is going into it without a provider who can help with Microsoft. And I don't say that specifically because we're providers. I say it because it's so complex. There was this initial idea where a CEO of any company, any industry could sit down and build out this whole platform themselves. I only do Microsoft, and I still can struggle with certain products in Microsoft. It has never been just an accomplishable sit down and build the whole environment. It's
Right.
something that it takes a lot of time, and it also takes planning. If you're just going to take all your data, dump it into a SharePoint site, you're going to cut over your email and you're just going to go to the races, I can guarantee you'll find headache. Uh, It is a very, very complex environment for the reason that you have flexibility and you also have a lot of different layers of security and protection. Microsoft's built on what we call the least privileged model or zero trust. So that way,
Mhm.
when you're storing files or you're doing anything, you know that at some level there's a form of security for you. And there's also just general limitations in the tool. I've seen organizations try and store 5 million files in a location that can only have 3 million files. Um, that there's common things that we see as providers that's very easy to say, oh, that's a red flag. Let's put a hold on that and let's just plan around it. If when you come into Microsoft or you're thinking about adopting it, just plan your move. Even if you don't have a provider, look into the products. How does SharePoint work with the OneDrive sync client? Does Intune work with the OS I'm on? Or, does it take a lot of policies to configure what I'm trying to configure? That's actually, I would love to go back to the baseline because what David has built out is an incredible tool that
Yeah.
when you look at how it helps an organization, it's not just a couple of policies that say, oh, this is how I sign in. It is a full spectrum policy configuration that sets up everybody in the organization. And then from there, you just scale the security. Well, when you're missing that baseline, because we build out the company intranet, we build out all the Intune policies, all the Defender policies, and then data loss prevention stuff. There's so many options in every single. I named 5 different products. There's probably 5 million different settings in all those and different toggles you got to hop into. Plan your environment, whether you're moving into it or as you mentioned, you might have business premium and not be optimally using it. You might not use every single part of the product. A common one I see is Teams Voice, where somebody moves to Teams Voice and goes, "Oh my gosh, it doesn't have some of the things I needed," because it's mainly for SMB. It's not, some enterprise level call center tool. It's a VoIP solution, a basic VoIP solution.
Right.
We drink the Kool-Aid as we joke, where we use everything Microsoft, and sometimes that's an absolutely amazing thing. Other times there's a service health issue, and I'm going, dang it, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Um, Planning's a big one, and that would solve a majority of organizations' problems. Even down to that single user profile, we're talking about an Entra. It's far too common. We come in and it's easy for us to put that red flag on something and say, all right, I can see why that's a problem. Plan, plan, plan.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the biggest thing you mentioned early on is trying to get a provider. And again, not being self-promoting here, but getting a provider that really understands the solution and understands how to implement and it has done it, has a track record. Like, you guys do, we do, you've helped us, we've implemented a lot. So we understand it. My team has learned a lot working with your team. My team has become very, very proficient, and we don't have to call you guys as often as we used to because they've become, very self-sufficient. But again, like you said, it does take time to become good at this and becoming a good consultant, making good recommendations to understand the business needs, the business requirements, and how each solution, because not everything's going to fit, like you said, everything's not
Right.
going to be the right fit for an organization, but it's so adaptable, so malleable that you can actually take pieces and make a very good system. It's not a Frankenstein monster. It actually turns out to be like a beautiful jigsaw puzzle when you
Yep.
come out to the end and you see that picture and you go, oh my God, this is what I've been missing. Um, the last question I got for you really is kind of future looking is, and you work with Microsoft a lot, Michael David and the organization brings in Microsoft into a lot of the discussions. I attend as many as I can. Where do you see the kind of this Microsoft 365 ecosystem going, especially now that we're adding in the component of AI, Microsoft Copilot is becoming kind of that additional bolted on feature, not even a bolted on, it's kind of becoming an umbrella now to cover everything.
Right.
Where do you see kind of the future of the product going, in 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
That's it's an interesting question because when you're looking at it in the past, you would almost never expect some of the leaps they've taken. So in 5 years, I think Microsoft has the potential to be an incredible product. It already is an incredible product, but when we look at what they're doing right now with Copilot, initially we thought it was just going to be an add-on to the applications. But you look at the Copilot app and what it can do with all of the applications, and then you look at it in some of the other tools. In Outlook right now, it'll summarize an email. If I go to Power Automate and I explain one of the workflows we just talked about, it will build and code the whole entire thing for me. It's actually kind of interesting how, AI in general has kind of done this stuff for us. When we use Copilot, we actually are mainly using it to integrate with our business knowledge. It's connected to our files, it's indexing our resources. We don't need a third-party AI. But what we do is we actually have access to Azure OpenAI, which is the Microsoft version of OpenAI, which is running ChatGPT and its models and other platforms, but it's a secure feature. Microsoft is really honed in on AI completely with their own data centers. They're trying to work more with OpenAI. It's something where it's not going to leave, and where Copilot's right now primarily integrated into our applications, we have to think, all right, well, we had the image processing for AI. We have generative AI for speech and language. We now have the videos being generated along with imagery. We have music able to be generated.
Yeah.
At some point, it's all probably going to come together. There's going to be a Copilot that does every single thing. It does already make images. It can make audio. And there's probably going to be a next phase where we start to look at Copilot to answer a lot of our workflow problems. And I'm not talking about building Power Automates. I'm talking about actually serving as some kind of virtual agent. Microsoft's eventually going to move away from the person support option. Copilot's built into the Partner Center. You're going to see it in the Admin Center soon. And eventually you'll only be talking to Copilot until you need that escalated level of support. So it's not just in a workflow for us. AI is going to start to replace a lot of the functions where either individuals, the human falls down, or it just takes too much time for that individual. I'm really hoping we see some of the augmented reality come back. They've implemented a virtual reality space. So we actually tested out where our pulse call, it's the internal company meeting, all got into an augmented Teams meeting. Everybody's in virtual reality. We're in like this interesting space with our team avatars. And that's one of the cornier options, I would say, in the future is the basic augmented reality of, oh, let's have a meeting together. But if you look at something like the HoloLens, there are going to be technologies that absolutely shatter certain industry standards. I think a big one with the HoloLens is actually being able to be live with somebody. An example, and you feel free to look this up afterwards, is that one user has the HoloLens on. So let's say I don't know how to fix a server. I put the HoloLens on. I'm on site at a client 500 miles away from Randy. Randy logs into a Teams meeting with me, and I'm showing him my perspective through my HoloLens. I'm looking at the server, and Randy goes, I'm going to circle this on the screen. You need to unplug this. And I'm going to see it come up in my vision and go, oh, I need to unplug this. And then Randy's going to circle something over here, and I got to plug it in over here. And I'll be doing the job while Randy's orchestrating it. Augmented reality is going to be big, whether it's in places like construction, manufacturing. I haven't heard anything about Microsoft robots, but NVIDIA's done it. Tesla's doing it. Don't be surprised if we get the Copilot robot soon.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's a lot. And we have the poor man's augmented reality. There's a phone with the video, FaceTime video or something.
Right.
That's that's our current poor man's version.
Let me show you this over here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, Nick, I certainly appreciate your time, buddy. I really enjoyed this. This is very helpful. For folks on our call, I'll be putting a QR code on the screen with information about NetLogic computers and some additional resources that Nick had mentioned. Again, I appreciate, Nick, your time. Any final kind of words of wisdom that you have for our audience?
If you're scared of the cloud, it's time to get with it. That many organizations are still starting either on premise or with like complete sprawl. They're not just in Google, they're not just in AWS, they're not just in Microsoft. It is the time to start moving with it because the cloud's moving fast. And now that AI is here, it's going to move even faster. Find a provider who can get you into the cloud. I, of course, recommend Microsoft, as you can tell, but It's because it's cost effective and it's easy to work with. And as a side note, Randy, it's always a pleasure to meet with you, sir. I cannot thank you enough for having me on. I love working with your team, and it's been a pleasure today, sir.
Great, great. Well, thanks everybody. I hope everybody enjoyed this. Just follow us on YouTube. We're going to put more interviews like this with some other folks from Nick's team. And I look forward to having Nick back on, talk about some other subject matter. He's got a lot of stuff in his brain, and I want to share that with our audience.
Sounds good, sir.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.